Thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel like been doing so many this week for some
Yeah, I've
reason.
seen you a couple different places.
Everybody seems to want to talk to me with this book. So
Hopefully that's a good thing.
yeah, people are reaching out to me instead of the other way around. So it's kind of nice.
That's right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Comics for All. Today is Friday, March 6th, 2026. So thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name is Jameson. I'm your host here at Comics for All, a comics librarian, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. As part of our weekly Ink and Insight series, we get to interview comic creators. We already had Stephen Prince on here once again, so he's on his second time. So, Stephen, thanks for coming on again, and glad to see you. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I feel like I was just here,
I know.
which I kind of was. We did Monster Matador in January. Wrapped that up. It's all shipped out except for a couple of metal covers that are coming delivering to me tomorrow. So everything will be fulfilled next week. It's about
Excellent.
a month turnaround, which is pretty good for a Kickstarter.
It is. I
Uh,
mean, I don't think people realize kind of the scale of all that fulfillment on the back end and like getting everything ready for the post office and just getting it all packaged. And that's very time
yeah,
consuming.
yeah, and for me, I need to get it done. I don't want it sitting around. I don't want that hanging over my head,
Absolutely.
And I
Well, a
get
couple
yelled
of,
at, so
right. Don't want that either.
yeah,
Well, a couple of these intro questions you've already answered, but we'll go ahead and do them
okay,
again just because we
yeah.
probably got some new viewers. But what hooked you into comics as a reader growing up?
Uh, I've always been interested in stories, fantasy stories. I tend to think very visually, so and I was always kind of a daydreamer. So comics were perfect. But I was not allowed to read comics when I was younger. They would. I had a one of my grandfathers would bring me comics every now and then, and they would just kind of disappear.
Hmm.
Uh, I'd have to kind of keep it all in my head. But I did. I mentioned last time, I think, that my parents did get me a subscription to Mad Magazine,
Nice.
which really makes no sense if you want to, keep your kid away from comics. But those are great too. So I grew up with that, and I started really kind of buying and collecting comics when I was kind of old enough, around like 12 or 13. And
Excellent.
yeah, the first ones. I mean, the first time I went to the store, it's like Jim Lee Punisher War Journal, where he fights the Punisher.
Okay.
It was X-Men 251, that Wolverine cover where he's on the cross.
Yep. That's a pretty
Uh,
famous cover.
yeah, it was I think Eric Larson Spider-Man. I mean, it was just like, you come home with that, and I mean, now we can look back in hindsight and with nostalgia, and like that's like peak, Marvel Comics. That was like those were just amazing times where you're picking up those creators on the rack monthly.
Yes.
It
A
was
lot
it
of
was
people
pretty
would
mind
argue that's
blowing.
probably like Marvel's like golden era of storytelling, really.
Yeah, and every generation has their own uh, sort of golden era, but at least for my generation, or people growing up in that era and picking up those books, that was just like, it was you were just hooked, right away.
Well, in terms
It
of
was hard
that,
not to be.
right, and exactly, and the reading hooks you in. But then, as you get a little bit older, when did you have the realization for yourself that you actually wanted to create, and actually be part of the comics, the community people who make the comics?
Yeah, I always wrote and drew my own comics. I would always, even as a kid, I would photocopy them, staple them, and hand them out to my friends.
Yeah,
As I got older, I would make like zines in high school.
there we go.
In college, I did comic strips for the school newspaper for a little bit, but I've always been making comics. Weirdly, I've never had any aspiration to like write for Marvel or DC. Like
Yeah.
I'm happy to, but it's never it's never been a goal. And but I always kind of doodled. I always made comics. I used to work in the toy industry, and I think I lost my job there around 2011, and it was just as like things like Comixology Submit were starting to come to.
Yes.
Um, things like, I mean, Kickstarter was still in the early stages, but it was just, I don't know, it just seemed to like just open up the world, and that's probably when I kind of got a little more serious about it, um, and realizing like, oh, okay, I can kind of do this and have an audience, build an audience, you know. So yeah,
We do have some viewers out there, so if anybody has questions for Steven about, his career creative process or even the Kickstarter itself, which I've put in the chat, feel free to put
yeah,
those in the chat. I'll bring them up. I know, like you said, we just chatted back in January, but
yeah.
have you had any free time to read any comics between the last time we chatted, and if so, has anything stuck with you?
Nothing really stuck with me. Oh
That's
no, wait,
okay.
what have I been reading? Oh no, I mean, they're okay. I've been reading. I had this real hankering to read aliens comics,
Ooh, okay.
and and there's a seller on eBay. I'll give you Fanaticals,
Yes,
and they've
Fanaticals
got
is
all
up
these.
here in
Oh,
Sacramento.
you
Yep.
know them. Oh,
Oh,
okay. So
yes.
they've got all these discount omnibus and all this stuff, and I got Aliens Omnibus 4, which I've been reading. Um, and I haven't been reading I haven't really been reading too much else, like 1,000-page book. Uh, outside of a few single issues. There was a book, comic I read that I found at my shop. It's called Fully Loaded, and it's a kind of like a Blade Runner esque sci-fi noir,
Ooh, that sounds fun.
cyberpunk noir, and the artist and writer is Jimmy Broxton. But it's I guess it's kind of a tough book to find. But that was really cool. I read that one I've been enjoying. But beyond that, the pile is growing, and we'll probably have to wait until the Kickstarter is over.
That's totally understandable. As a librarian, my
Yeah,
to be read pile just never ends. So,
yeah.
for the viewers out there meeting you for the first time, perhaps, how do you introduce yourself?
Mhm.
What you actually get to do in the comics world.
I am a writer of independent comics. I guess I do. I'm kind of known for a book called Monster Matador, which
Mm-hmm.
is about a matador that fights kaiju to make a better world for his daughter. And I've been doing that for about. Well, I've been doing it for about, gosh, it's too long, over 10 years. But the Kickstarter version of it, which is the version that everyone knows, in color with artists Fabio Alves and Alex Zeff, I've been doing for 6 years in June. So,
True.
yeah,
That's fantastic.
yeah,
Well, and we're going to talk a lot about today. The reason we're here is the next project, Mercy in Prison, which is live on Kickstarter. Like I said, I put it in the
right.
chat. Um, what kind of drew you to the story? And you mentioned a lot of the art team you had already been friends with or collaborated with previously. But kind
Yeah,
of what drew you to this story? Be like, this we need to bring this to life.
it's funny. This usually I'll have an idea for something, and I kind of just let it sit and wait until it kind of comes to me. And this one has a weird kind of beginning. My wife was introduced my kids to Full House, and one of the things Uncle Jesse, John Stamos, keeps saying in that is "Have mercy." So my 7-year-old
Yes.
daughter like would just walk around and she would just go, "Have mercy," you know. So I was hearing that like for like a month straight,
uh,
and I at some point I just thought, Mercy would be a cool name for a character, and then I started thinking, well, what kind of a person would that be? And I had just watched a film called 99. Was it 99 Women? I don't know. I forget the name of the director. It's either Tinto Brass or Jess Franco, but it came out in the late '60s, and it was basically the original um, women in prison film that kind of got the genre kicked off
got
the
it.
genre. And so I was like, oh, that actually, like a girl in prison whose name is Mercy, and and I've never really, I love horror, but I've never written horror before, so I thought it might be fun to do that.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of, went from there. And it's funny, I was having dinner. I do a convention called Monster Palooza, and we went to dinner after. I was with Clay Adams and Dave Schrader, and they run Bloodline Comics. They do Nightmare Theater. They do Carmilla. And anyway, I was talking to Dave, and Dave's like, "Well, are you working on anything new?" And I said, "Well, I've got this idea, Mercy, and and he's like, "Oh, tell me about it." And I just like on the spot just started talking about it. And it all started, and it kind of came together. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," and and that's kind of where the idea formed. And I just thought like, oh, I want to have a horror book for Monster Palooza this year. And I don't
Where's
know,
Monster Palooza held at?
Pasadena.
Pasadena. Okay.
Yeah, and I just sat down and wrote it, and I decided to do it as a series of one shots as opposed to like a series.
There you go.
And so yeah, I structured it. It's like eight page. I guess 3 acts, but each part is like 8 pages. So if you read the book, every 8 pages kind of like. But yeah, it came together pretty quick, actually, like surprisingly.
I love that.
Yeah, and I had a loose kind of draft, which was pretty much there, without any of the like the captions and the narration and whatever. And at San Diego Comic-Con, I was sometimes like what I'll do is I'll just like start telling people about a project because that'll motivate me to actually do it. Like, oh, now I've got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mick Byers, who's the artist on the book, we were chatting, and he was over at my table because he was signing something for me, and we were just chatting, and I was telling him about the book, and he's just like, "Oh, I'll draw that," and I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah."
Okay.
I'm like, "All right." I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." I'm like, and he had a book. He's doing a book for Clay, but Clay didn't have his script yet. So I'm like, well, I'll just give you the script I have right now, and we can just get started, and we'll figure it out along the way. So it really did come together really quick. And as the pages were coming in, I was actually writing, like doing like all the writing and stuff like that. So
perfect.
yeah.
So we're going to delve into the Kickstarter itself, almost in reverse. We'll talk about the Kickstarter and then kind of more on the story and art afterwards. So for the Kickstarter itself, kind of, the production status, how far is the book finished? Kind of how many total, you said it's 24 total pages. Can you kind of talk about those kind of things?
Yeah. I mean, the book's completely done.
Excellent.
I don't launch. I don't launch unless I'm done, or like, I think one campaign I was like, it needed like 4 more pages colored, which I knew were going to be done. So the plan is to, once it's done, we send it to the printer, turn it around, hope to get it to everyone by May.
Okay.
So we'll end in April. So, so long as, no bumps in the road, but I generally turn stuff around quick. Yeah.
And right now we've got, still 20 days to go, but I'm pretty sure a couple people in the chat, if we can, go ahead and help out the campaign. Even sharing it or even getting the digital copies goes a long way towards getting the campaign to reach its funding. Stephen, if you can talk about a couple of kind of like, that's right, that too. If you can talk about a couple of like the variant covers, kind of the cool limited items or kind of commission stuff that's available.
Sure. So this is my first NSFW book. It's it's a hard R book. It's like a exploitation movie from the 70s. And we have the main cover is by Mick Byers, who's the artist on the book. This is the Andrea Daly variant. Andrea is relatively new to the comic scene. She is incredible. It's such a beautiful cover.
It is.
The second variant, it just came out so good. The second cover is by Suspiria, who is one of the most in-demand cover artists in comics today, especially in the horror genre. You will see her all over James Tynion's books. She does Blu-ray
Yes.
covers for Vinegar Syndrome. She is all over, and she is so good. And you can just see it, see the cover, the mood, everything about it is just so good. I'm really, really fortunate to have that. And this is my NSFW cover, which I drew, and Alex Zeff, our wonderful colorist, colored. I've been wanting to get back to drawing, so I kind of
the purple background kind of throws me off, but I really like it actually.
yeah. I very specifically wanted it to look like a kind of like an indie comic, like an underground indie, kind of a flat
Yes.
color with a very kind of like solid background and image up front. So we also have metal cover versions. Mick is doing sketch covers. Oh, did I not put there's a lenticular cover. So it's the lenticular is basically safe for work, not safe for work.
Yes, I saw that.
Which is pretty cool, yeah. And the original art, which somebody already bought. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I do pencils and then I light box the inks on top of it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like too in your a lot of your campaigns, your prices are very reasonable too. So I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. I'm not just saying that either.
Yeah, I look, everybody costs, prices keep going up and up and up.
They do.
But I do like I'm always mindful. At the end of the day, I want people to get the book. I want them to read it. I want them to enjoy it. I don't want them to feel like they're kind of spending an arm and a leg. So we try to keep it as reasonable as possible and not really jack things up.
And I think people respect that too.
Yeah. And like, those Suspiria covers for $20 or, especially like hers those are going, like people are jumping on those because she usually commands a premium. So definitely a good deal.
And we've touched on this before, but a good question to ask, especially when there's a live campaign going on, how do you approach and try to balance that on top of other creative things that you're also doing as well?
Yeah, it pretty much, it's pretty much a month off of everything. Like I'll get a little work, but it sucks up so much time.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly kind of I don't know, updating things, social media, all this stuff. It's pretty exhausting.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you can, we can talk about now the assembling the art team, which is always an exciting thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Getting kind of the concepts together. Who is, like you said, the first person you kind of locked in, and how did you guys approach the process of kind of bringing the book to the actual to print?
Like in terms of just, like I said, with Mick, Mick just kind of fell into place.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was going to start looking for artists for it, and I hadn't really thought of anyone or had like a style in mind.
Right.
And so it fell into place, which was nice because it saved me a lot of stress. And working with someone I know is easy. It's easier, Mick and I we're two very immature people, and what was fun with Mick is like usually the first book you do together, you really get to know each other.
Yes.
And Mick was throwing just all these gags in the background and like all this stuff. So it was a lot of fun just playing off of each other.
Right.
In that sense. So like, the second one that I just wrote, it's so over the top and crazy, but it's nice because when you kind of get a feel for each other and you're on the same wavelength, you can really kind of write and create a book that everyone's excited about, that you're excited about, and what was interesting about Mick, I was on a show with him the other day, and he was talking about how he generally, in his books that he draws, he tries to avoid action as much as possible.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and so this book was
I haven't heard an artist say that before.
yeah, and I hadn't really thought about that, and then like looking at his stuff, I was like, oh yeah, there's so this was kind of new for him, like to kind of, because I tend to be very heavy on action. Like action drives my stories. I don't really like people sitting around and talking. I like them moving. And
So you're saying
so
there's
it's
not going to be a slice of life story coming up?
yeah, no, probably not. No, no, it's especially like when you're doing short bursts like this. I mean, look, you're buying a book about like women in prison fighting a vampire. You want to see women in prison fighting a vampire. You don't want to see people talking about like what they had for breakfast,
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. That was kind of fun. And then for colors, I always go to Alex. Alex has been coloring Monster Matador for 6 years now, and
Wow. Okay.
she's so good, and she has grown so much from when we first started to now. And what I love about Alex is that she's so versatile, and you can kind of like throw any style at her, and give her some direction. And even if it's something she's never done before, like she will kind of take the time to figure it out,
Right.
and to kind of, and she did a really really nice coloring job on this one. There's some subtle little things um, she added to give it kind of a 70s feel. If you look
Mm-hmm.
closely to the art, she kind of like textured with, it's like a subtle amount of grain and stuff like that. It's really nice looking.
And I don't know who actually did the lettering on it. If you can talk about kind of the lettering.
Um,
Got it. Well, do you actually enjoy it, or do you find yourself kind of like grinding to get it done?
no, I do, because that's where I do a lot of the writing. Not a lot of the writing. I mean, it's written, but I'll kind of like proof and massage and really, um, that's where the kind of the final draft comes in.
Right.
Um, because a lot of times when you see the art, you're kind of, now you're it's one thing to write something. It looks great as a script, but now you're visualizing it. And like I said, like an artist like Mick will add things. And artists will kind of, sometimes the expression is different than what you're writing, or
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like you'll find like little subtleties, or like there will be little things that like jump out, and you're like, oh, I kind of want to pay attention to that, or maybe, so I actually, I enjoy doing the lettering for that reason, because it lets me kind of really kind of control the narrative, um,
That makes
and
sense, actually.
finalize it. Yeah.
Um, is there a particular page or scene when you look back at the kind of the completed work now, you're like, wow, the team and I are really firing on all cylinders here on this page or sequence.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when the pages started coming in, I mean, really the first page, I was so happy with it.
Love that.
You
Yeah.
know, it was, and this was the first time I hadn't really, because I knew Mick was drawing it. And so with Monster Matador, I created it. I drew 12 issues prior to the Kickstarter. I have a very, very, very specific idea of who the characters are, what they look like.
Right.
I designed a lot of the characters. A lot of the characters are based on my designs. And Fabio is just so good that it's almost like I'm not as good an artist. So mine is like, my drawings are okay, but then he'll just take that and he'll just make it like real to me. And so with Mercy, I was kind of, I didn't really have a handle on her. And the moment I saw Mixed Pages, it was like, yep, that's her, you know, like he just
That makes
nailed it.
sense.
And she's got this kind of like farm girl, kind of like, you know, sweetness to her, baby face, but she's also like tough, you know, she's got that balance, and it's great. And a lot of it, like in the lettering, I was kind of tweaking the script a lot, because like that, it really kind of brought the character to life for me. And she narrates the book, and that was all done when I had the artwork. I was basically doing it as the pages were coming in.
Okay.
And it was hard to do that. It's really hard for me to do that stuff in the script because it slows me down.
Yeah, no kidding.
But like when you see it visually, it's just like, okay, it just flows really easily. It just comes out easily. Uh, and his interpretation of the character was so real to me that it just, like her voice, I had her voice, like it clicked right away who she was and how I was going to write it. So
I love that. And you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but if everything on this particular campaign goes well, kind of what's the next step or the next stage for this particular story or art
yeah,
team?
yeah. I mean, we've got another one shot. It's written.
Nice.
Um, so whenever Mick's got a second, he's doing it. He's got a Kickstarter launching in March 16th for his book Queen of Mars.
Ooh, I'll have to reach out to him to
Um,
get him on the show.
yeah, Mick's great. And then he's doing, is it Dream Quest or Blazing Blade of Frankenstein? I don't remember, with Clay Adams. So he's pretty busy. So what's nice about doing one shots is that, you know, he can just do them as he has time in between his projects. And we're planning right now for kind of 3 one shots,
Okay.
and that'll kind of bring everything full circle. And all the kind of seeds that we're laying, we're dropping in this issue, will kind of, everything will become very clear. And then after that, it's hard to talk about it without spoiling anything, but we definitely have a lot planned for her.
Well, in an ideal scenario, would you want to put like the 3 standalone stories in like a trade or like a collected edition of after that at some point?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think we'll do like, I'd like to do like a hardcover,
Yes.
a nice hardcover. Um, it'll be about probably 100 pages, so it's big enough and small enough to where it won't break the bank.
Yes. So that's say 100 to 120 is
Yeah,
like a really good length.
yeah, that's really the with Monster Matador. The first trade I did was 180 pages, and I tell people I will never do that again.
Sounds like a nightmare
Um,
to put something like that together. My goodness.
it is a lot. It's a lot to put together, but honestly, just in terms of cost,
That
the
too.
different even the difference just between a like 150 page book to 180 pages, it's just it's significant, and it becomes a challenge. Uh, you know, so yeah.
My next question, and this is probably a fun one: is there any, comics, movies, books, or anything that were kind of inspirations or kind of help influence the storytelling on this?
Oh, sure. I mean, um, I've been watching. Vinegar Syndrome is an independent label. They put out a lot of kind of indie films, exploitation films from the 70s and 80s. So that there were, and obviously the Roger Corman films. Roger Corman did a whole bunch of women in prison films in the 70s. Big Birdcage, a couple others. I haven't. It's funny. I haven't seen them in years, but you kind of. Uh, they're definitely an inspiration. But there are more films that I'd seen recently. There's one called Terminal Island. It's
Mm.
about it's like a it's about prisoners, men and women prisoners on an island. Yeah, there's just a lot of like films like that, exploitation movies that really kind of inspired it.
Then another fun kind of creative question is, are there any songs or artists that would be kind of like a fun playlist or a soundtrack that would go along with it?
Oh, sure. I mean, a lot of 70s rock. I mean,
Oh yeah. Kind
uh, what's that?
of like late 70s Black Sabbath, I feel like would be like
Yeah,
perfect.
like you know that song. What's that? Black Betty. Black Betty.
Hmm.
Yeah, stuff like that. Definitely. I definitely listened to a lot of that while I was writing.
I know. I think I've actually approached this on a couple of creators. I think it'd be a fun idea to like put like a QR code somewhere, and then like you said, build like songs that would be appropriate and fun to like play along as you're reading it.
Yeah, I've seen that where people do playlists, and it's like one of those like, yeah, like you said, like, yeah, I should do that. I should maybe I can actually put one together before this Kickstarter is over and do that.
There you go.
It's a good idea. That's a good idea.
I actually, like I said, I think it's kind of like a fun creative idea because it shows
It's
like
fun, yeah.
the creators like musical interests in a sense too.
Yeah, it's funny because usually when I write something, when I have a story, I usually have a song
Mm.
that kind of anchors the story. Like it's just and that like a song in my head or whatever that like okay, that's the song for the story. Um, so yeah, it's I mean for this one, I think that Black Betty was probably the one. Um, that's just a fun
That would be a
song.
fun one.
Yeah, I mean it it has nothing to do with the story. It's kind of a nonsensical song, right? It doesn't really no one really knows what the hell it means,
Right.
but it's like it's got like that atmosphere and that beat to it. So
If have you ever thought about or approached the idea as a writer doing some kind of like a light novel mixture where it's like third like a percentage, prose versus comics or like graphic illustration? I've
you
seen a
know,
couple different examples and some of them have turned out
yeah,
really good. So just kind of want to
yeah.
see if you've approached
I
that idea.
I've written novels. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I love like for me if I'm making a comic, like I love comics. I love what comics are. Those types of things like where it's prose and spot illustration, I've never been able to get into it. I mean, like
Yeah,
I can get into it as prose and I can enjoy the illustration, but I feel like if I'm going to make a comic, I want to make a comic.
that's fair.
Um, but like if it were something where it was like a diary and you can or the novel tied into it somehow to where she's reading something, I could see that.
Right.
Um,
Well, I had one
yeah.
creator on, I think Braxton, he approaches it where like the prose novel is volume one of the series, and then the graphic novel is actually book two. So you actually need to read
Oh, that's interesting.
in that sequential order, where the prose novel is actually the first part of the story, and then the second part of the story, regardless if you want to read it, is the
Yeah,
graphic
yeah. I mean,
novel. So
also, prose is a lot a lot of work, man.
yes, it is.
I
Whew.
like dialogue is whatever, and I could just be like Mick, draw something.
Yeah,
Here's what they're saying. Um, yeah, no, it's a and you're right. A lot of there have been some experiments in that. I don't know. I don't know. It would have to be the right. It would have to make sense to the story. You know what I
it
mean?
is. Well, the one recent example I would shout out would be The Big Lie by Fabrice Sapolsky that he put out, and it's probably about 30% illustration and 70% prose, but it was really well done, kind of experimental, but I thought it was a really
Oh,
cool, unique approach to it.
oh, is that? I didn't realize that came out already. I didn't realize he was. Oh, I didn't realize he was doing it like that because I know it's influenced by Tintin. I thought it was
Yep.
gonna.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought it
really
was.
playing on the idea of like public domain and that the characters themselves don't realize that they're characters. And that's kind of a
Oh,
good chunk of the story. So I really
oh, that's
definitely shout
interesting.
that one out. Shout out
Yeah, I didn't
Fabrice. I know
realize
he's
it.
out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. He puts out great books.
Absolutely. So, Stephen, in terms of kind of cool things that's happened to you at conventions or reader feedback over the years, what's been kind of a memorable experience that you can share with us that's and kind of in that realm?
Ooh. Honestly, it's just a lot like some of the best things are meeting Kickstarter readers
Yeah.
in person. I mean, honestly, that's really cool because you know you and everyone else. I mean, that's the reason why we're able to do this, right? Is because you guys help us to fund it and make it a reality. So that to me is always the highlight of conventions whenever I get to meet people, and also when people come back.
Yeah. You
It's
get return
really cool.
buyers. Yep.
Yeah, it's really cool when people are like, "Hey, I picked this up last time. I've been waiting," you know. Because it's funny. Like, there's one convention I do, and every year the guy comes back. I'm like, "Hey, dude, I've got Kickstarters," and he's like, "I don't do Kickstarter, but I'll be here next year." And you find that like some people like that's their thing is Kickstarter. Some people like conventions. Some people like the comic shops, and
Yep.
but it's really cool. It's really cool when people come back because it means that you're doing something right, or you're connecting in some way because just by the nature of what we do, I mean, we're at home doing it.
Yep.
As creators, we chat with each other, uh, and we all, we're all complimentary and whatever. But it really means a lot when uh, someone who outside of that circle, kind of has that same reaction.
Yeah.
Scott Snyder had done. He had did. This was actually pretty cool. He does his online classes, and he did one on action and how to write like a good action scene. And he used the first issue of Tango of the Matadors
Okay.
as one of the examples. So that was pretty cool. I mean, that was like
Yeah.
that was pretty cool validation. So yeah, it's always nice when things like that happen because a lot of times like you
Yeah.
don't
Especially like
really.
that recognition among your peers, essentially.
Yeah, but also just that it's just like okay, like there's something. uh you're not crazy kind of continuing to do it, you know what I mean? Like you're not just,
Right.
I don't know, we're all kind of like not necessarily. I don't really call it insecurity, but it's just kind of like we just don't know, right? You just put it out in the world, and you hope people enjoy it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you have any upcoming convention appearances, store signings, other podcast appearances, anything along those lines?
Yeah, I'll be. I think I'm doing a podcast on Geekscape on
Okay.
Monday. I've got the Latinx Comic Con in Modesto.
Yep, that's up by
Uh,
me. Yep.
yeah, April 2nd and 3rd. I'll be there. I'll be walking around WonderCon. Um, I'll be signing Free Comic Book Day at Santa Monica Comics. I will be at Monster Palooza in Pasadena at the end of May, and I will be at San Diego Comic Con in July.
Perfect. Um, are there any hints you can talk about in terms of other projects that you're working on in 26? At least ones you can talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the next Matador is going to drop in July.
Perfect.
And I've got a couple other projects that they're in development. One of them I'd like to pitch around before I do a Kickstarter. I'd like to try and go that route for something. So we'll see. It's you got to kind of spread it around, I guess.
That's right. Well, a question I haven't got to ask: is there a convention that you would like to go to as a kind of a creator guest, but haven't got a chance to go to yet?
Oh yeah, Baltimore.
I've heard good things about
Is that
Baltimore.
yeah? That's Baltimore. It's called Baltimore, right? Yeah, the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that one. Yeah, that one. A lot of people I know go there, and I've heard it's a ton of fun. And Heroes
Yes,
Convention.
Heroes Con as
I
well.
hear is a really fun one too. So those are two I'd love to check out
Fantastic.
at some point.
Where can people follow you online and follow along with all the stuff you're working on?
Yeah, I'm at Monster Matador on all social media. Also monstermatador.com. And on Twitter and Blue Sky, you can find me at Monster Matador. You can also find me at the Stephen Prince.
There you go.
So,
and on Threads.
And on Threads, yeah, which I keep forgetting I'm on.
I know Threads is funky.
That's the thing, we were talking about Kickstarter, like why it takes up so much time. It's like there's so many different social medias, and
there is.
it's
well, that's unto itself. It's just the time it takes to post about the Kickstarter, to promote it, just on the different websites and podcasts. That takes so much time. Unfortunately, I feel like it takes a lot of time away from the creative process and working on creative stuff, because you're spending your time as a marketing person, essentially.
and you're always researching, trying to figure out where else can I find.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I used to do marketing, and I'm pretty good at it, but like when it comes to doing marketing for myself, I just don't have I just hate it.
I don't blame you. It is hard. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah, and it is.
Well, my last question for us is one you've already answered before, but I'll still ask it anyway. Do you have a favorite snack or a meal as a go-to to kind of, and maybe you even eat before you sit down for a few hours to work on a project, but do you have a snack or a meal that kind of gives you some fuel?
Coffee.
Yeah.
Even though every day I always say I'm going to cut back, but it's my go-to. I drink it day and night. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Do you
never too late?
Any particular way, just black, or any particular?
Just, a tiny bit of cream.
Just a tiny bit of cream. Perfect.
Creamer, yeah.
All right, I put the Kickstarter URL in the link or in the chat one more time for everybody out there.
Cool.
Stephen, is there any last thoughts you'd like to share with the viewers out there before we head out?
Yeah, go back the book. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. No, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming by. Read more comics.
Absolutely. Go get comics from your library. I always like to promote that.
Yeah. That's honestly, dude, like growing up, there was like, you were lucky if there was like a comic book in the library,
Or it was more like the comic strip variety, like Garfield and like that type of stuff.
Yeah. And they were always
Peanuts.
and they were always like 20 years old or something like that.
Right.
It's really incredible just how that's changed. And take advantage. I mean, I'm in LA, and I'm assuming libraries all over, like, you could borrow outside of your library. So it's
a lot of the time you can. It is.
Yeah.
And especially those hard to find, or even a lot of those indie titles you can actually get from other libraries that do end up buying them, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I like to promote too, a lot of the time, if your library doesn't have a comic that you're interested in, ask them to buy it, because they will actually make the effort of finding ways to get it. So Stephen, thank you again for coming on the channel. We'd love to have you on again in July when the next Monster Matador comes out. But everybody out there, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.